Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the next session of the Astute HR Mythbusters. This time we are talking about the cost of hiring a bad employee. So let me see who we've got so far. See if we are waiting for anybody to attend. Okay. And let us get started. Okay, so in the usual way, if there is anybody that has any questions as you go through this, there's a chat box in the toolbar. If you click on the More button, there's a chat there. You can just ask me whatever questions you'd like to ask me as we go through this. You don't need to wait till the end. We're going to go through a number of topics now, and it all relates to the cost of hiring a bad employee. So what I'd like you to take away from this is a number of different things that will be useful for you on a day-to-day basis. So what is it you need to think about when you're taking on new employees? How do you recognize if you have made a hiring mistake? Dealing with difficult employees in the workplace. And even when you've made a mistake, it's not too late. There's ways to get around these things and try and resolve the situation as long as you get there early enough. Similarly, I want to go through identifying what are toxic employee profiles. The things maybe your gut already tells you that actually this person isn't right. You know, how long are you going to wait? Are you waiting to the probationary period? Are you waiting for a year, 2 years? Just certain things I want you to think about when you've employed somebody, whether they're still the right fit or not. I'm also going to go through the processes that you should go through to try and find the right people for your business. And it more relates to having the right mentality, the right attitude, and being aligned with whatever the goals of the business are, rather than just looking at skill set. And then I'm going to look at a few things in terms of, even if you've got a nightmare employee, how to resolve those issues or how to avoid having them in the first place. So I'd like to take all those things away. But as I say, if you've got any questions as you go through this, please do ask me. If you want to call me afterwards, my number will be on the last slide on this webinar, and I'm free to take any calls any queries that you have regarding these sorts of issues. So Simon Sinek is a motivational speaker. Some of you may have heard of him. And he wrote a book called The Power of Why. So it's understanding why people do certain things, not just what they do. And he says that you don't hire skills, you hire attitude. You can always teach skills. So I'm quite a firm advocate of that, because most people recruit on qualifications. You know, what skill sets you have. And then they're a nightmare person. If the attitude, assuming that the skill set is there, if the measure of the person's attitude for the right fit in the business is made, you're more likely to have a productive team, the right person for the business, and it will be a successful recruitment process. So when you take on a new employee, it's not just about, you know, recruitment costs or paying the salary to somebody. There's all sorts of other problems that come about when you get the wrong person in your business. So the morale of the company comes down if you're carrying their weight, or if they're disruptive, or if they're gossipy, if they're not fitting in with what the goals of the business are, or what the culture of the business is moving forward. It's not going to work. They're not going to be productive. The idea is to make sure you get the right things in place to assess their characters as well as their skill sets, to make sure that it's a right fit for the business. That is a key thing that is missing in a lot of the recruitment processes. So what do you need to focus in your recruitment process? So how do you choose people? As I said earlier, and this is the Simon Sinek approach, you can don't just hire on their ability, select them on their attitude. What things can you put in place to determine whether they're the right fit? You know, there's things like Myers-Briggs, or there's various other personality assessments that you can put in place. But whatever it is that fits your business, make sure it's a right fit. Find out what their goals are, what their passions are. What is it that they want to do? What is their progression? You know, they say what is the definition of happiness in one word? It's progress. Always feeling that you're going on to the next level, or to the next stage of whatever your career is, or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So find out what those things are when you're recruiting at an early stage, so you can see that they're aligned with what it is that you want to do. See that they grow with the business. You know, when you're looking at what the employees want from the very beginning, you create loyalty. They're more likely to be productive, more likely to break their back for you effectively. It will increase productivity and make the work environments that people enjoy, actually want to work in. There's one caveat I've got for that, which is just because somebody, as I say, the Simon Sinek thing is you can teach the ability, it's the attitude that you can't really teach. So recruit on attitude. But sometimes, obviously, you can't teach intelligence. I think you need to make sure that you have a proper recruitment process in place that actually assesses that they have, this is all on the basis that they have the relevant skills. If it's a matter of trying to teach somebody who can't do the job, well, that is a different assessment that you need to make as well. You can't teach intelligence. You can teach somebody how to do certain work, but you can't teach intelligence. How to recognize a hiring mistake. So if you recognize any of these sorts of signs, and I think probably some of you will have recognized at least one of these types of characteristics, then you know you've made a mistake. Most of the time, we're talking about new hires. We're not talking about people that have been there for a number of years. So there's normally a contract that you'll have got them to sign, and they'll normally be in some sort of a trial period, presumably 3 months, maybe 6 months. But make sure you make use of that time period to find out that they're the right people. Can they do the job? Does their character damage relationships within the business, with your staff, as well as with your clients? Do they get it? Do they get what it is you're trying to do? Are they causing problems in the workplace? Are they always making mistakes? Are you finding that your time is being taken up having to supervise that person's work? Are they only doing the bare minimum? Are they doing going above and beyond what it is? Are they the right fit for your business? Recognize those things early. Are they negative about everything? Do they seem to be complaining about the workplace? You know what? If they're not happy there, they really shouldn't be there. If a full-time employee that is working, let's say 5 days a week, you're with these people or with your work colleagues more than you are with your friends and family. If you don't love it there, you should really find somewhere else that you need to work. So assess it early on whether they're the right fit. Do they project the right type of professionalism and appearance that your business wants? Are they a team player? Or are they just really complaining about whatever it is that their work is and perhaps bringing the morale down? You should check with your other staff as well. Ask them, are they the right fit? These are people that all have to work together. So do what your other staff think about that new recruit. Get that feedback, not just relying on what your own assessment is part of whatever your recruitment process is. You're more likely to have a broader view on what the type of character is and whether they will fit within your business. So let's say that you've got somebody in the workplace and it's already been done. You've made the recruitment. It's not too late. You've got a bad apple. What are we going to do about it? Well, there's a number of different ways you can deal with these situations. The first thing is obviously just recognize what the problem is and try and encourage that person at an early stage. Maybe they're new recruits, so they don't really know the job. So our obligation is not our legal obligation, but maybe what we want to do is make sure that we've done what we can do to help them engage properly. Listen to what the problem is, figure out what they're not getting, see how you can help to solve whatever difficulties they've got, and then maybe they will step up and you don't need to get rid of them. Maybe they just needed a little bit of time to sort of get used to the work environment and start to shine. Get some feedback. If the employee is difficult, get them to give feedback, help them address whatever the situation is. Find the solutions, go out of your way to fix whatever the problems are. If you want to be the kind of employer that is respected and you create loyalty, you want to be somebody that's approachable. You want to be known to be somebody that you can go to and resolve whatever complaints or issues that there may be. Show consistency. Be fair with everybody that you're dealing with, all of your staff, including the new staff as well, because even your existing staff will see how you treat new people coming in. Keep it professional. Sometimes people get quite personal about certain issues in the workplace, or maybe they've got personal problems and they're bringing that to the workplace. But this is about work. Figure out how you can help them to do their job. If they can't do their job and you can't help them to do their job, then you're going to exit that person. Document everything. This is particularly relevant for when there's more than 2 years service. You may have heard, you may be aware already, and you will have heard this from my earlier webinars. You need at least 2 years to claim unfair dismissal. Before that, an employer can terminate an employee's employment for pretty much any reason, as long as it doesn't fall into a category of discrimination or into a category of automatically unfair dismissal. But otherwise, whatever you do, document it. Employees need to know what it is they've done wrong, see what they need to progress, what they need to achieve to go to the next level and meet the company's required standards. So document them. Establish consequences. Let employees know what it is that will happen if they don't meet the required behaviors or the required standards. I did this in a previous webinar where I called it Super Nanny Law. You know, the program with Super Nanny, where there's a nanny, Jo Frost, she goes round, she talks to parents who can't manage unruly children. And so what she does is she puts in some processes in place, understand that if the children don't behave, they're going to end up in the naughty step. That's effectively what employment law is. It's about letting employees know what the consequences of their actions are. And if they don't meet those required standards, there'll either be disciplinary processes or they may even be exited from the business. If everything else fails, they can be dismissed. In fact, an employer has the entitlement, as I just mentioned, to terminate an employee for pretty much any reason they like within the first 2 years of service, because an employee needs to have 2 years employment for there to even be legal jurisdiction to claim unfair dismissal. So you can dismiss them if quite frankly, if you didn't even want to take the time to go through the process, an employer would be entitled to do that. But if you've done all these things and you're within 2 years, you'll definitely have be a fair dismissal. You know, these things are not easy to do, but at least if you've followed the right process and you've tried to explain to the employee what the requirements are and they've still failed, well, at least you can say you've done everything you can do to stop this from situation from happening. So it's not going to be your fault. Okay. So this is my guide for identifying toxic employee profiles. So what I'm saying is, if you've already, you've gone through the recruitment process, what I always say is that when you interview somebody, you're not really meeting that person, you're meeting the best representation of themselves. So it's going to be eventually a course of time where their true character will come through. And maybe you've already recruited them because they did a really good interview and they got through whatever checks you put in place, but then suddenly you see something isn't right. So if you recognize any of these types of employees, make a note to decide whether you still want to keep them on or not. It's not too late. Okay, so if you recognize any of these sorts of people in your workplace, there's the slacker, the employee that never pulls their own weight and doesn't get any work done. There's the person that's being accused of bullying or intimidating. Perhaps they need to throw their weight around to feel that they need to be heard. There's people that are gossiping, that kind of brings the work environment down. Again, decide what kind of people you want in your workplace. There's the people that aren't team players, the ones that sort of say, that's not my job. They won't go do the extra bit or be flexible. You want a work environment that is creative, that is helpful. And if they're not going to fit into that sort of work environment, then they need to move on. There's the employees that are constantly late or disorganized. A lot of things are habits. So if the employees are late, don't let them get away with it. Perhaps explain it to them, or perhaps go through a disciplinary process so they understand the seriousness of it. Remember, disciplinary action is not supposed to be considered as punishment. It's about telling employees what is or is not acceptable. And by going through that process, they maybe learn that way. The emotional train wreck. So if there's somebody that keeps on bringing their problems from home into the workplace, again, maybe it's not the right fit. Depends what kind of problems they are. But again, if it's draining the rest of the team down, you need to think about what is in the best interest of the business. The know-it-all. So those employees that refuse to listen or be open to suggestions, or perhaps are clashing with the business or the business goals or values, again, that's just not going to work. That's going to be a toxic employee. And anybody that's sort of shouting all the time, rather than engaging in constructive discussions, that's just not going to work either. So how to find the right people for your business? I've set out a number of different questions. There's no set list. These are questions that a lot of clients ask me about, and they end up sort of adapting them to fit whatever the work environment is. So will the job candidate fit in your corporate culture? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big firm that you operate. What is your culture? What kind of people do you want working there? Do you want? What's your criteria? What is the main characteristic? Is it just having nice people? Is it having certain skill sets? Whatever your criteria is, make sure that person fits. What experience do you need for the job? Do you need somebody with 10 years experience in whatever the role is, or will a junior do that you can train up? Consider exactly who it is that you want. Identify early on in the recruitment process whatever red flags there are, whatever concerns there may be, or maybe other obligations that you might have. If somebody is disabled, for example, you may have obligations to make reasonable adjustments. Just identify that you've got the right things in place so that you can accommodate the employees and that they fit with what your needs are. Will the candidate drive your business to success? So, a lot of people ask what their goals are in the interview process. They ask them what they hope to achieve, what it is that they perhaps make the interview a two-way process. Why have they selected you? What is it that they see in your business that they want to succeed in? You need to think about, does the rest of the hiring team agree with the decision? So particularly if management is away, or the boss is away, if it's a small firm and they're left with, for a small company and they're left with this existing staff there, we need to make sure that they're all getting along with each other. So make them part of your recruitment process. Let them also select that person that they want to work with. You know, do what you need to do to check that they're the best person for the job. What I always say to clients is, you hire slow and you fire fast. So take your time, put the right investment and time into your recruitment process so you're finding the right people. Just check if there are any questions. Okay, we seem to be doing all right. No questions at the moment. Tips to avoid HR nightmares. Okay. Okay. So these are the things you should really be putting in place when you're thinking about recruiting anybody, whatever kind of industry, whatever kind of work. I mentioned earlier about hiring personality over skills. Attitudes can't be taught, but skills can be taught. So hire people who exude the types of behaviors that you want in the workplace, or create the kind of culture that you want in the workplace. Again, remember what I said earlier. Obviously, that doesn't mean you just absolve any responsibility for maybe they're not the right fit, or maybe they can't learn. You need to make sure that they're the right kind of people that are receptive for that kind of teaching. Be patient. Be patient with any employees that you have in time, and maybe perhaps they will start to flourish. You know, also with the process itself, for the hiring process, I said hire slow, fire fast. That way you won't regret what decision you eventually make either way. Give them a test drive. So what you can do here is you can have a trial run. You can actually have it, whether it's an apprenticeship or not, is what the reference in this particular slide. But actually, most contracts of employment have a trial period of 3 to 6 months. It can be either, or even more, quite frankly. It's just, what is the reasonable period of time to assess whether they're the right fit? Even if you're not hiring, it's always a good idea to have to grow your talent pool. Make sure you've got prospective job candidates, and then when you do need somebody in, you can always rely on that bank of other potential candidates should you need to call on them. Seek out diversity. It's the difference of different types of attitudes and different types of skills that will then contribute differently to the business. Ensure that you're encompassing or encouraging that sort of diversity to be able to create that sort of creative sort of work environment. Tap into the right markets. When you're looking for the employees, make sure you're advertising in the correct places. Listen carefully to what the employees are saying. They're already telling you what kind of people they are and whether it's a right fit or not. So during the hiring process, it's really important to hear what they've got to say, what they hope to achieve. Why have they selected you? Give them what they want. So when you're negotiating with an employee, okay, you can get somebody in quite cheap. I guess the idea is making sure that they feel valued from the very beginning. If they feel valued early on, and they feel that you have bought into them, they will also buy into you, and they're more likely to achieve what it is that you're looking to get from them. Invest in the employees. You know, they're your greatest assets. You need to make sure that they go to the proper training, that they're up to date with whatever the latest progresses or developments are in whatever industry they're in. If you don't invest the time in them, you're going to leave yourself exposed. Narrow the playing field. Know exactly what it is you're looking for early on. Be really selfish and brutal about it. Know what it is that you want in their candidate. What kind of person? What are they like? What are their characteristics? What is it specifically you're looking for? It makes it much easier than when you're actually on the search. Focus on enthusiasm. Passion, enthusiasm, it's not that easy to find, actually. What the idea is to find people that will actually buy into you and your business. And if you find that right mix, they can really help the productivity and help the business just really excel. Know what you want. Hire the people you know with the right skills, experience, personality. It's a little bit more of the same of what I've already said, but know what you want. And when I say get a second of opinion, so one of the things we do at our firm, even as part of the recruitment process, is the staff also involved in the recruitment process. You want to make sure that they are the right fit for the business, not just you thinking they might be the right fit. Get second opinions, and then form a view based on that. So you're covering everything and making sure that there isn't anything that you've missed. So that was that's everything for this particular session. It's a little bit shorter than the last one. If you've got, I hope you've got a good idea of certain things that you might be interested in when you're thinking about recruiting. If you want some specific ideas or discussion about what you should have as a criteria to decide, or how you can do the personality assessments, feel free to call me. My number is 0203 011 1601. That's in the last slide here. I'll happily talk to anybody about whatever questions they've got in the HR employment law field, and I'm pretty sure we'll have a solution for whatever the issue is. So I'd like to thank you very much for attending this time. Let me just check if there's any other questions. Nope, that was pretty much our whistle-stop tour of the cost of hiring a bad employee. Do feel free to contact us if you need any further help or have any questions about this presentation or anything else. I wish you all the best.